welcome to the first webinar of 3. This is what I want to do here is make it very interactive, just as almost as a bit of a mastermind session where we're reflecting on what we've learned, what your impressions were, where you might be having some struggles, because this is your time and this is really dedicated, designed for you to start applying what we've learned. And as we know, it's very difficult to, you go through 2 days and you come out pumped up, and a week goes by and then 2 weeks go by, and all of a sudden you tend to go back into your comfort zone, kind of the regular status quo, right? And so putting all this information to work is really where the work begins. Those 2 days we were learning, now we're trying to apply some of these things. And we'll talk a little bit about Unit 11. I don't know if everyone had a chance to watch the video. If you haven't, it's okay. Just watch it afterwards and catch up. Okay. But it'll talk about, okay, now we've written our affirmations. We're visualizing, and we're not really necessarily getting to our goals any faster, right? And so what's wrong in this picture? And one of the things that Unit 11 talks about is the 2 types of motivation, which are constructive and restrictive. And typically, when the easy way to think about constructive and restrictive motivation is really that restrictive is, I have to do this, I have to do my affirmations, I have to start acting differently at work, etc. Versus a constructive where you're more on a want-to basis, right? That's the easiest way to remember it. And when we look at constrictive, we're looking at either something being forced upon you, just as it may be at work. You may be, forced to do certain activities. And what is our natural tendency when somebody pushes something on us? What's our natural tendency? Right, we push back. Exactly, we push back, right? So it's just human nature. And so if we're trying to force ourselves or others into doing something in a different way, it's not really going to work. It's similar to the rubber band, right? So if you force a change, as soon as you let go of that force, it's going to go back to its normal spot, right? So that's not a way to create sustainable change within yourself or within the organization. And so we need to understand where we might be doing that to ourselves, meaning, I have to go to work, I have to do this, because it's a choice, right? It's a choice that we all make on how we decide to perceive something in life, right? Something that we're trying to do. It's our choice to either say, I have to do this, I have to do that, or we can choose to look at it on a want to, choose to, love to basis. And it's not that you're going to love being in traffic. It's not about loving, the bad part. It's about figuring out the why, the deeper why you're doing what you're doing, the sacrifice that you're making, so that motivates you, right? I want to get in traffic because I want my daughter to get to school on time, right? And so it's all about kind of finding the why. And this is what this unit is about, is looking at your different types of motivation. Okay. So let me go around. So I want to make this very interactive, very casual. It's been a week since you've gone through the material. What have you noticed? What have you applied? What have you taken away, or what have you struggled with over the last week? What do you guys say?
For me, was like what we spoke before, Sergio, was affirmations. Getting used to using the affirmations. I mean, I think it, but I don't apply it. Put it that way. That's the best way I could explain it.
Right, and so that happens to almost everybody. So don't feel like it's like anything about yours. Did anyone have trouble really creating powerful affirmations?
Yeah, I still have to spend some time on that. I definitely I changed some of the ones that I had, because it was I will instead of I am,
Correct.
Changing it to that I need to do a better job of that. And this section is definitely key in the why. Why do we want the things that we want? right?
Exactly.
Changing that.
That's a great point. And then, you know, one of the reasons why sometimes affirmations don't work is because if you read it and it doesn't fire you up, then you're not there yet, right? And then it's just too plain Jane. If it's not getting you excited to go out and run through a wall for it, you're not thinking big enough. And so that's a good litmus test to say, all right, you know, read through it. You're visualizing it. If you're not fired up, change some words into something that means something to you. Even if it doesn't mean anything to anybody else. Maybe it's just a kind of an inside joke you have with your friends or family. You know, use those words that influence you. Who else? And Beta, by the way, you're on mute just in case if you need to talk. You want to unmute, sir?
Yeah, I was on mute on purpose. I'm just kidding. No, but you know what? I'm glad the affirmations issue came up, Sergio, because as you know, I'm a big believer in affirmations. But I think just like Danny said, the changing just the little nuances of the verbiage that we're using with the affirmations is very, very powerful. And I have my affirmations are stuck to my bathroom mirror. It's so funny because my granddaughter goes in there when she's in my bathroom and she reads, you know, a potty mouth one that I have in there. And she loves it, but she reads it so much that she's memorized it. And it's generic enough because it's not my personal affirmation. It's a Kermit the Frog affirmation. But I
Would you
realized
mind
that
sharing that one with us?
I fucking love you. You are a sexy beast. It goes on, and I'll send it to
Kermit
Sergio
the
and he can
Frog?
send it out. Kermit the Frog looking at himself in the mirror. It's hysterical. Excuse the language, but that's my normal
But you
Cuban.
know what? That's
You have
because that's what gets you excited, right?
That's
what
exactly.
So make it yours. Make it yours.
Yeah, and I think that really helped because it almost gave me permission to speak the affirmation in my language.
Mm-hmm.
And you know me, Sergio, I don't ni
Yeah.
pido permiso ni pido perdón. But it's just very subtle, but it became from wow, this is good to holy crap, this is very powerful. So that
Exactly.
exercise was really, really helpful for me.
Exactly. And like you said, you gave yourself permission to do it in your own words. If you're writing it to impress somebody else, it's not going to do anything for you.
Yeah.
It's not going to work. Make it yours. I mean, you're writing code, whatever you want, right?
Yeah.
And you know, the big thing, remember, the affirmations are a tool. It's a tool because when you start writing something down, number one, you have to start thinking very intentionally about what you're writing. Right? And then it needs to mean something to you. And as you start writing, you're starting to create pictures in your mind, right? And a video of okay, what does that look like? And it challenges you because maybe if it's if it's not a big enough challenge, it's not going to get you excited enough. It's not going to work. And it forces you to think big and expand your container. You know, and you know, something that you say about all the time is picture yourself a year from now, right? What does your life look like? You're transporting yourself to the future, you know, instead of back to the future, forward to the future. And you pop into your life and you say, hell yeah, look at me. You know, I'm kicking ass. I'm doing what I want to do. I'm loving life. I've lost weight. I feel amazing. I just ran that marathon with my dad. Oh my God. I mean, that's like one for the record books, right? It's an amazing memory that we just made. Wow, like I'm on top of the world. It's that feeling of crossing that finish line of whatever your goal is and putting that into words so that you can start creating that visual. Because like I said, we start moving towards what we think about, our thoughts accumulate to become beliefs, our beliefs then affect our behaviors. So how about you, Patrick? Or Danny, go ahead.
No, well, no, go ahead if there was somebody else.
No, go ahead, Danny.
So the thing that I've struggled with, I guess, over the past, 2 weeks that we've had is that the little voice, right? In the back saying, brother, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you had this goal and you set this goal and you said you were going to do that and you were all that and you didn't do shit. What's different? how's it going to be different this time? Because you know all the stuff. You've been told all the stuff. You've been through all of these things. What's different this time? And even back then, it was, okay, figure out the why. But like, I think it comes down to what you said earlier was, even though, you know, it's got to jazz you up, like to a certain extent and the other is the belief of, you know, that doubt is getting rid of that doubt and just having the confidence and having the you know, just having that confidence and the belief that it will happen. If
Exactly.
you put it, and what's been amazing in literally the last 2 weeks, you know, I have an income goal, and it was a very, very lofty goal that I created for, like, something that I was like, okay, if I do that, that's crazy. I was doing well, but I said, no, you said that, let's go after it. And literally in the last 2 weeks, even then, just setting that energy in motion has put me back on that path of receiving clients, attracting clients that will help me reach those goals. So,
Yeah. Amen.
There you go.
Yeah.
And so we all have the critic, right? Everyone has the critic. Sometimes that critic is yelling in your ear, stop it. Come on, who are you kidding? Look at what you've done in the past. It's just going to be more of the same, because that's what it does. It tries to, you know, that means that you're pushing. As you start pushing your comfort zone, that critic is going to get louder and try to pull you back in. Right? And at that point, you got to do a pattern interrupt and you got to stop it. You're better than that. Stop it. Stop it. That's it. You're better than that. What's the recovery point? Right? Stop it. You're better than that. I am going to close these deals. Stop trying to, you know, hold yourself back.
Right.
And you got to tell yourself, because sometimes, you know, no one's going to tell it for you. Nobody knows that voice is even happening in your head. Right? And so that's a big part of stop it. I'm better than that. And then you say your affirmation, right? I am, you know, I do close X amount of dollars per month, easily, with ease and excellence. And
right.
People come to me because they trust, respect, and admire me. And that's the way I live. Right? And it's always going to be there. It's always going to be there, but you got to cut them off at the knees and focus on the recovery point. So it's just like when, some of you have heard this. I don't know if we talked about this during the meeting, but when in race car driving, when a driver loses control and he's sliding towards the wall out of control, where does he look?
To the wall.
Supposed to look at the track.
Supposed to look at the track.
But we look at the board. We look at
He looks at the grass, because that's a recovery point.
Oh.
He looks at the grass because wherever you look, your body tends to move towards, right? So it's just like when you're riding the bike as a kid and your dad says, hey, look out for the rock. And then you start thinking rock and you hit the rock, even though he said, look out for it. Don't hit the rock.
Or that post. Yeah, the post.
Don't hit the post. You hit the post, because it doesn't matter. Post is the operative word. And that's the image in your mind. You're getting post, right? So you need to always look for the recovery point, whether that's through an affirmation or the positive self-talk, or get somebody to get you back on track. Always look for the recovery point.
Sergio, you should do a blog about that. That's a great analogy.
Cool. Thank you. Patrick, you were going to say something.
Yes, sir. So I've been tweaking my affirmations. I liked what I wrote in class, but, you know, because of time constraints and all, sometimes you don't really fully get everything out. So I've been tweaking those. I've been working on those. But the biggest takeaway I really took from the class was working on my blind spots. Sometimes it's not what you say when you communicate, how you say things, it's body language. And I have a very young, impressionable team. Supervisors that I'm trying to empower. And sometimes I realize when I'm saying A, B, and C, my expression or my body language is saying something else.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been trying to work on that. And then the other concept I really liked was about the chaos. about getting out of your comfort zone. I've always been one where I like order. I don't like chaos. Chaos doesn't work well when you're a parts manager. What I had to do is I had to like break that down and say, okay, if by chaos, I'm gonna keep it to this and do some things and move people out of their comfort zone, especially myself, and challenge my team and challenge myself.
Interesting. And so okay, so what would you say your leadership philosophy is? Have you ever thought of that? And the reason I say that is because, you know, your beliefs shine through, right? When you don't realize that they're happening, right? Just like in your body language, you could be talking about something that maybe you don't fully believe in, and the tell is coming out through your body, right? It's kind of like show and tell. So, for example, if your leadership philosophy is to take care of your people, it's to add value anywhere I go, I think it's important to have a leadership philosophy, just as if you were campaigning in 2020. What is your leadership slogan? If you were going to be running for office, what phrase or what words capture the essence of your leadership philosophy, kind of where you hang your hat on? Because I think that's important to take some time to talk about that and talk through it. I think very few people actually have one, right? And when you're very certain and very clear on how you lead and what you value in terms of leadership and, you know, being very constructive, then it's gonna show. So I think that's really critical. Do you have a leadership philosophy that comes to mind? What are your thoughts on that?
You know, that's a great question, Sergio. I'd like to think I have one, but could I sum it up like in a campaign slogan?
Mm-hmm.
Probably not.
It doesn't have to be perfect, but what would you say is, you know, top of mind that comes to your mind when you think about that?
I'm all about like teaching in the moment.
Okay.
So when an issue comes up, it's like, okay, let's talk about what we can do. And then, you know what, if we make the wrong decision, let's talk about why it was a wrong decision, where we failed, and what we can do to get better. But I'll tell you one thing that I'll share. It kind of came up in class. I had a mentor that I worked with years ago, and one thing he taught me was when your leadership style and you're talking to your team and you're communicating something that was decided to your team, you talk about we's and I's, not them and they. So you never your team and go, they decided this, they want to do that. No, we decided this, or I decided this. So you don't create that wall like, okay, I'm sharing this with you, but I really don't agree with it, because you're just dooming, you know, any potential for it to take off or grow. You're dooming it by your attitude.
Right. Exactly. Absolutely. Well, I don't want to keep on this one, but does anyone else want to offer some thoughts to Patrick on that?
George, be nice. Sit next to you, man.
I'm always nice.
You're even next to him on the screen here.
We're neighbors. We share.
Exactly.
Our office is divided by a wall.
Yeah.
You're going to stay off my lawn.
Patrick, I'm curious, do you see that as your style that you just described, even if you didn't think it was concise? I thought it was very clear. Do you see it as a positive or as a negative?
No, I see it as a positive, and that's pretty much with a young team of supervisors that have never been in that position before. Their egos are so fragile that they're afraid to make a mistake, and it's like, it's okay if we make a mistake. And I said, we, not you. It's okay if we make a mistake, and you know, this is how I'll recover. Now, obviously, we want to watch the impact. If I think it's going to be an impact and it's going to impact customers or someone's livelihood, then you know, it's going to be a different approach. But when they come to me and they say, hey, I want to try something or I want to change something, then I'm all for it. It's like, okay, this is a teaching moment. Let's talk about it. And let's talk pros and cons, the whys. It's like what we were talking about during class when you start a home remodeling project. What visually, again, what do you want it to look like? How do you want it to, from the way it was?
That's a great point. And, you know, starting with the end in mind, what does success look like, and then work your way back. That's a fantastic teachable moment. And as well as you're projecting to them the idea of the growth mindset, right? That failure is part of the process. I mean, mistakes are part of the process. It's okay to make mistakes, but you are monitoring, you know, the magnitude of it, just to make sure that it's, you know, we can absorb it and take it, because it is an investment in their learning, right? And so that's very powerful that you say that, you know, you like teaching in the moment, because that's fantastic. I mean, you're teaching them, right? And passing down, and you're empowering them, which is tremendously important, because people like to feel valued, right? And they like to feel that their boss invests in them, not only with resources, but with attention and time and sincerity. So that's very powerful, very powerful.
It really is. It's great.
Share when I've made mistakes, and, you know, just to kind of break the ice a little sometimes, because you have people that get real tense. It's like, hey, I've made these mistakes. I failed. I've done this. I've done that. And, you know, just so they know, like, I'm a human. Like, I'm not gonna hold it against you. I'm not gonna judge you. As long as we learn from it and grow, we're good.
Exactly. Great. I love that, Patrick. Thanks for sharing that. Who else has some thoughts about this last week? JC, what do you what has been your impression of the last week, and things that have kind of crossed your mind and changed?
Sure. I think for me, one of the things that I struggled with was I think it was quantity versus quality, and having so many goals. I think I was having a hard time, regardless of affirmations, etc., kind of putting them into action, because kind of the easiest way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. I think I needed to focus on one particular goal. And I think that's what I've done, and I think I've gotten to the want and positive self-talk, and created a specific action plan, and I can see the finish line of that goal. But I was struggling because I had too many, so I was kind of dealing with health and work, and
right.
The subordinate, and so I was looking at direct report, and then I was looking at the goal for the unit, and then it just, I had too many. I had the 8 that we wrote on the paper. I don't know if everybody else kind of had the same issue. And what I did was that it allowed me to focus when I chose one. It allowed me to focus, and I'm seeing a lot of success, and I'm seeing a path forward. But that was my issue.
But that's a great point, because I think it's important to gain momentum with affirmations, because if you try to, like you said, bite off more than you can chew, you're not going to end up doing any of them. And so focus on one this week, and really put it to work, and really take some action on that, and get it memorized down to the core, and get a quick win, right? I think we all need quick wins to get things moving, and that's a great way to do it. And so what would be your priority number 1 in terms of the affirmations that you came up with? What would it be around? Physical health, career, family, etc.
Well, for me, it was physical. I want to live a long, healthy life. That's my kind of my affirmation. And then kind of I started doing meal prep this week. Looked into a gym membership. And I think already started doing some walking. today. So, it's little by little, but mine was the health. So I sound very old when I said that.
I get a little more excited about that health.
Yeah. But I'm really excited. I started eating better. I'm doing intermittent fasting. I mean, it's just I'm feeling better. So I think that when it was mixed with work and everything else, it's like, okay, I'm gonna do the health thing, but
A
then
little bit.
I fell off track because it's too many things. It's like writing a to-do list of 50 things, and
It becomes a have to. Oh, I have to do all those things, and you're like, you don't even want to do it anymore.
That's
and
right.
It's almost like square one.
Right. Your goals become a have to now, and that just didn't make any sense. So I focused on the health now, and that's I'm already seeing fruits of the labor, right? When you're focused. So
yeah, and a couple of things with that, I think accountability is tremendously important, right? Having an accountability partner, a coach, whatever it is, but having someone there to push each other and to hold each other accountable. Because as leaders, a lot of times we kind of tend to feel lonely, right? You're almost on an island. It's lonely at the top, is what they say, right? And especially if you're an entrepreneur, because you are like Danny, you're on your own, and you don't have a boss, right? You are the boss, and you need to be able to motivate yourself. So having accountability in your life in one form or the other through a coach or a friend, mastermind group, whatever it is, even George and Patrick, you guys sitting next to each other, is really hold each other accountable, right? And find out, okay, what are your goals this year? As you approach the end of this year, how are you getting you to your goal? Well, here's how I'm going to get it. So, and then how are you getting to your goals? All right, here's how we're going to get there. And what can we do together to hold each other accountable? Maybe you guys, spend some time once a week just focusing on checking in on each other, right? I think that's incredibly powerful towards really achieving your goals, and call each other out and say, like, are you doing your affirmations? Are you actually doing something about them? And so having somebody in your life to bounce that accountability off of it's tremendously important.
Can I add something for JC?
Yeah,
please.
But I recommend doing any group stuff. I mean, get into like any martial arts or boxing, or I don't recommend ever. Sorry about the bird. That's my bird, by the way. I don't recommend, maybe the Orange Theory, something like that. Don't do the crazier stuff, but get into group stuff. I mean, that will help you go along the way, at least once a week, so that will get you kickstarted. I mean, I think the hardest part when getting into nutrition and the physical stuff is the first 3 days or the first week, I call it the breaking period. Once you get used to it, then you start adjusting it to your life. You know what I mean? So, but by yourself, it's too hard, man. It's too hard. So get into something. I mean, I always recommend Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because I've always been a fan of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But any boxing or anything like that, I mean, just join a group. You know what I mean? And you'll see that you're not alone. That's just the bottom line. You know what I mean? And then you could feed off other people just the same way what we're doing here at the end of the day.
That's a good point. Thanks. I think that's great in terms of accountability, right? If you've got a class, karate, I mean, whatever it is, spinning class, whatever it is, I mean, you got to be there at a certain time. You paid for it. What ends up happening when you're on your own is, I mean, you get home, let's say you don't do it in the morning, you get home, you're exhausted, you're tired.
Who's going to tell you anyway?
Yeah, right. It's the easiest thing to say is, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll run, 40 minutes versus 20, or I'll walk, whatever it is. But when you've got a class and, folks are you paid for it. I mean, that's major accountability. People are asking questions. They're like, hey, where are you at? Or, obviously if it's hitting your pocketbook, your wallet.
Exactly. That's a great point. People pay attention to what they pay for, right? When you pay attention. When it's free,
Uh,
you
Well,
don't really pay
well,
attention.
I was gonna say though, I for probably for 10 years, I had a membership to LA Fitness. I just called it my fat tax. It was $30. I just said, that's someday and finally I canceled it, like maybe like 6 months ago or whatever. And they call me constantly. We want you back. We want you back. I'm like, no, it's okay. I'm doing it on my own. Not that I'm doing it on my own. I'm in the sense of just walking, eating right, and finding. I think Sergio, you mentioned something earlier, which was key, was finding something that interrupting. Like I used to,
The
like
pattern.
when I would the habit I used to have, I close the deal, whatever. My thing is pizza. I love pizza, dude. Any pizza place. I was like, I'm gonna go celebrate and have pizza. And I was like, well, you know what? I'm gonna celebrate. I'm gonna have an apple, and I got apples now, or grapes or whatever, something healthier. And I still, so changing that other up as well in the sense of what we associate our rewards to and all of that. So.
Exactly, yeah, and finding that on your wins, pop that bottle of champagne in your mind, right? And it doesn't necessarily have to be celebrating with something that's not going to be healthy for you,
Right.
It happens, right? Enjoy your pizza, you deserve it, but just don't make it something that then negatively affects your other habits that you're trying to build, right? And on that point of making changes, right? Ideally, you want to get those changes into habit form, because that's when it becomes much easier. But starting a habit, I find is incredibly difficult. It's one of the biggest obstacles that people face, right? And so I think and actually I'm writing a book on this. My theory is that actually I have it right here. I'll show you. Called the habit lock, and I believe that every goal can be unlocked when you set in place the right combination of habits, right? And that first one I think is very, very important, because it's a keystone habit. It's the one that everything then gets affected by, right? And when I think about working out and losing weight, it's what I find it's really about you're working out, because if you work out, you're going to eat better. You're going to feel better. There's about 3 or 4 other propellants of putting these habits in place that come out of that one action. And I think the worst thing you can do is just not take action. Right? If it's a matter of saying, when your self-talk comes into play and you say, oh, I'm tired, I had a long day, I don't really feel like going to the gym, et cetera, you know what? Get a small win, make a deal with yourself, and you say, I'm going to get dressed and I'm going to drive to the gym and I'm going to walk in. If when I walk in, I don't feel like working out, I'm going to give myself permission to turn around and go home. But I guarantee you that 99% of the time, as soon as you walk into that gym and you've gotten yourself there, you're going to do it. You're going to do it. So, give yourself a little leeway sometimes. And I think that's a good way to start building the habit, but it's all about getting momentum, gain momentum. I don't know if you've heard of the flywheel in different courses, but picture a 12-foot iron disc with like rods coming out of it, right? And it weighs a ton. And you start trying to push that thing around in a circle. That first effort is so hard, and you're not getting results. But as you start building momentum, eventually the thing starts spinning to the point where you can just push it with your finger, right? And so habits are the same thing. If we're trying to change some habits, the idea is to get the quick wins. It's like going up a bridge on a bike. You want to put on the lowest gear, so you're just going. You're taking action, right? It can be incredibly difficult to get up to the top, but if you got a low gear, you're gaining the wins. That builds momentum. And another thing I think is important that I think sparks energy within, trying to hit your goals is about gratitude, is having gratitude. And because I think it really cements you into kind of where I'm at today. And wow, look how far I've come. Look at all the great things in my life. I have the ability to work out. There's a speaker, I just forgot his name, Kuchevich, that he doesn't have any arms or legs. He doesn't have any limbs. And that guy swims. He jumps off a board in the pool, right? So
yeah, I've seen the TED Talks.
Right, exactly. And so it's just a matter of grounding yourself, because a lot of times we don't even give ourselves credit for everything we've done, and put a stake in the ground and say, man, look, I have a house, I have air conditioning, I have food, I'm breathing, I'm not in the hospital right now. Wow, amazing. I have the ability to work out, right? And that sometimes sparks you moving forward. Anything else? You guys are quiet. So going back to the leadership philosophies. So Patrick shared his. I want to go around the room here, and I want you guys to share what you think yours is, because I think it's important to kind of crystallize that in your mind. What do you think comes to mind? So Danny, let's start with you.
It's actually pretty difficult because I haven't had to in terms of the work space. I don't supervise anybody. We're all independent entrepreneurs, and so each of us.
Well, and think about it as leading yourself.
Yeah.
What's your philosophy in life and leading yourself and your family?
So that I think what I came, was being a role model. Was what I wanted to kind of instill for my family. What I have in my head is, I want to be that role model for my children in all the aspects of my health, of my work ethic, of my marriage, of my communication skills, of all of it. And so, I just want to be able to be that role model that they can see, and also feel that I'm available in the sense of they can talk to me about what's going on for them in school with whatever, and so to be open. So the little thing that we had gotten, that leadership thing, was definitely an eye opener.
Yeah.
Didn't look good.
Well,
a lot of area for growth.
And if you think about, what would an affirmation around that look like? What's your ideal state in that sense?
Yeah. No, I have to write one. I don't have one. I don't have a. And I was looking here in the book, back at that section of, I need to have an affirmation for that, for my family, everything we just talked about. I haven't created one, so I need to. Okay. I need to do that.
And notice you said something I have to do and I need to do, which means you're probably not going to do it, which means the why behind it isn't clear yet. Really think about what it means to be a role model to your family, and why that's important to you, right? And what that's going to bring, being a role model. So it's not even so much about the role model, but why be a role model? Because it's going to, X, Y, and Z with my kids, right? They're going to see me as the person I want them to see me as, and so forth. All right, who wants to go next? JC, you want to go next?
Sure. In terms of leadership style, I think it's
your philosophy.
Or philosophy. So servant leadership. I think that's probably the best thing, the best way to describe. I don't like to take credit for things at all. I'm really big on team and giving credit to other folks. I'm very much about really trying to be of service to others, colleagues, direct reports, whoever it is. So that's kind of my style. I think maybe too much of it it could be hurtful in terms of some aspects of my job, which my test results prove. But that's how I would define my leadership style.
Yeah. Yeah, I very much see you as servant leadership being that main philosophy. And one of the things that you mentioned was about not taking credit, and I think that could hold you back in a lot of ways, because you're not giving yourself that pat on the back, right?
Right.
JC does some amazing things in his role, and I know him personally, brilliant guy, and does things very, very easy, like with a lot of ease that would take us, it would be difficult for us to do. In that sense, that he's very good with his strengths and building on that. But at the same time, when you don't build your own efficacy up and take credit and pop that bottle of champagne, and then it's, you're doing more damage than good, in a sense, right? And that hurts the self-talk, and then the self-image and self-worth, and so forth, right? So I think it's important to, not brag about our wins, but it's, take the credit for it in full, right? Even if it's just internally. So that's very good. So we got role model, servant leadership. Beta, how about you?
Unmute myself. Sorry about that. I think I really related to what JC was saying about servant leadership. I think with my issue, one of the big things that I had to tackle during the workshop was my inability to delegate properly, because I'm one of these people who feels that if I tell you once and I tell you twice and you don't do it, I'm going to take it and sort of. So one of the things that I've noticed over the last 2 weeks is that I'm doing more pulling than pushing, and I've never been good at pushing, so I figured I might as well try it another way. So I'm pulling them along, my team along, as far as when it comes to, okay, if something is not getting done and it's sort of lagging, then I'm going to take the lead, and here, just hold my hand, because we're going to do this until eventually they'll take over and sort of run with it. And it's a little bit of a different dynamic for me, because my partners in my business are my children. And so it's hard to sort of, differentiate that role of mom and partner, because we really are partners. I don't consider myself the boss by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, I know I'm not. So but it's been different, because I've been able to, instead of before where it was like, okay, if they're not going to do it, they're not going to do it. It's sort of like, hey, this is happening and this needs to happen. And we need to be on my timeline, which Sergio knows me is sort of on steroids. Every minute of every little thing is taken in my calendar, but it's really helped me to catch myself when I'm not doing the delegating that I need to be doing. So it's all, and the results of my test were very altruistic, which made sense. I mean, it's, at first I thought there was a little imposter stuff going on there, because the results were so good. Not that they're good or bad, but I really felt that if I could bring that in, it's sort of, here's the vision, and what I want to do, but this is why it's important, has just really helped me. And I don't feel uncomfortable with the delegation, because I'm not seeing it as delegation. I'm seeing it more of like, come on, just come with me. Just come with me till we get this done. And then that path will lead to the next one. So I think it's been interesting for me to see how just being aware of it has really shifted the results on the other side, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, and what you say is powerful, because you're leading by example. You're going to be in the trenches with them, and eye to eye, instead of being kind of coercive, trying to force them to do it. And I think that's one of the challenges that as a leader we have is because, especially if you have direct reports, it's very easy to tell them you have to do this because you're the boss, and if they don't do it, then they get fired or they don't get paid. And so, but it's not obviously a very effective way to tap into the discretionary energy that all these people have, right? Like I said, when you feel like you're valued where you work, and you feel I want to do this because that's just who I am. I mean, I love doing what I do. When you have that, you create so much more energy and productivity, and things start, your RAS turns on, and you start noticing ways and other pathways to get there. And so that's what this unit is all about. It's around motivation and how do we create that environment where it's a very constructive and productive environment where we're empowering people that around us, right? And it's not only just in the workplace, but you're empowering the people you influence. And especially with those you influence, it's tougher. And I think that's the real test for leadership is if you're able to influence effectively. I think that's even more powerful than direct supervision, because they're not getting paid by you, and they don't answer to you, right? And so I think that's where the real leadership motivation of being constructive is fantastic. But it's not easy. Like you said, it gets frustrating because sometimes you want to be constructive. Sometimes you get to the point where you just say, "I forget it. I got it." I'm going to do it because if not, it's going to fall apart, or it comes across a certain way. So, very good. Thanks, Benta. George or Patrick, who wants to go next? Let's say Patrick. Oh, no, Patrick. I'm sorry. We already talked about you.
You already went.
Yeah, the teacher. What's another one? George, you're up, buddy.
I think my philosophy, I have the rated R version would be making shit happen. The PG-13 version would mean just make it happen. I think on a personal, if you know me on a personal and even at work, at work, I'll try to make it happen no matter in the best way I can, and also realistically. I mean, as long as it's within the realm of the industry, the company, there's no limits. You know what I mean? But I am good at pushing. I'm good at motivating, and I'm good at letting them fail and guide them the right way. I mean, I've been in the industry for so long that I think Patrick could understand me on this. Is we don't sell only to our customers, but we also have to sell to our superiors. So it's like kind of like a double-edged sword, and try to make it work for everyone.
Mm-hmm. And do you find that the getting it done, how does that impact your team sometimes?
Sometimes, most of them. I mean, I think at least on my report, he's so new that he doesn't have the confidence. So for me, that's the easy one because I could help him with the confidence. For the more experienced guys, they quit on me a lot quicker. Or they don't believe, put it that way, because they've been there so long, they think they know it all. So it's kind of like, come on, man, give it a try. Don't, or I try to convince them in another way that makes sense to him so that they could do it. At the end of the day.
Can I share something that I experienced with George? I guess yesterday. We were in a meeting together, and George leads the meeting, and one of his direct reports was saying something about a customer issue, this and that. And George got right to the heart of the matter and said, "What's he need? What do you need? What can we do?" And just force the guy to talk and answer instead of sitting there whining.
Yeah, he was a very negative Nancy, and he was kind of like, there's nothing we could do, and then and I'm like, why not? Just why can't we do it? Why can't we find him a solution? And yeah, you're right. Actually, thanks for that. I forgot about that.
No, I didn't, because that's those impacts that we shared. That was awesome. I was like, way to go, George, man, you peeled that right out.
Yeah, and in that sense, you know, that guy has the view that, well, that's it. You know, there's nothing else we can do. And, you know, what we learned about with scotoma is assume a solution exists. You just haven't seen it yet, or you haven't found it yet. And so that's a really good way to approach these guys, right? And help them self-discover what it is we can do by asking a lot of questions to them, right? Like, just like you said, what is it that you need? What's holding you back? You know, what would make it work? What does the client need? And allowing them to kind of create that answer for themselves, because that then builds themselves up, right? And their own confidence in that, hey, look, I thought there was no solution, and look at that, we found a solution together. So that's fantastic. Great, guys. All right, so we are getting up to the top of the hour, so I want to make sure we get you guys out of here on time. So that was fantastic. Thank you for that. If you haven't seen Unit 11, I was just, you know, take a look at it, watch it. It's only about 6 minutes, and it'll help you really recap about the why. And, you know, we talked about that after a couple of weeks, we may be struggling a bit in getting our affirmations and getting on, starting to apply these things. The video really sums up, you know, why we're encountering these issues and how to start getting past that. And a big part of it, like Benta said at the beginning, is the nuances of verbiage, of words. Small changes, but has a huge impact. The have to versus want to. Really examine for that next 24 hours or next, you know, couple days. Catch yourself when you say, I have to do it, and then stop and think about, okay, do I have to? Do I really have to do it, or do I have a choice? And just about the only thing you have to do is die, right? Because at the end of the day, you don't have to pay your taxes. Just you live with the consequences, right? You might go to jail. You don't have to pay your bills, but you know, your lights may go off. You may not have water, etc. You don't have to do anything. So when you catch yourself saying, oh, I have to do my affirmations, oh, I have to go to work, I have to do this, I have to do that, just eliminate have to from your vocabulary, because there's nothing you have to do. Don't go to work. Just don't show up. You don't have to go to work. You don't have
Patrick, I won't see you tomorrow, bro.
What's that?
All right, Patrick, I won't see you tomorrow.
Yeah. and so and this sums it up nicely here. Let me just share this with you guys. Right here. Do what you want to do, just be prepared to accept the consequences of your decisions. And that really puts things in perspective. And again, think about gratitude. That's always a great propellant to get you out of the funk of the have to, and start to live on I want to do this, I choose to do this, it's my decision to do it. Because all of a sudden when you say I want to do it, it's yours. The locus of control is within you. It's internal. It's not external that I have to do it. It's usually because I have to do it for somebody else, or I have to do it to please somebody else. So get that out of, you know, that's the pattern interrupt. Catch yourself saying I have to, and say, no, let me change that up. I choose to, love to, want to, etc. Because that's going to be really, really powerful. And you'll feel the difference. You'll feel the energy pick up when you say I want to. And again, catch yourself saying that, but it's not about I want to go to get in traffic. I have to go to Publix. No, I want to go to Publix because I want to prepare a wonderful meal for my family, so we can sit together and bond, right? If what you're changing the want to is not exciting enough for you, dig deeper. There's a deeper why behind it that's going to really bring that to life. So dig deep in that. So for next time, the next webinar is going to be September 11th, 2019, and we're going to look at Unit 12. So be prepared and go through the video unit. everyone received the link. You have it there. I think you just need to put in your login information and so forth, and you'll have access to the 3 units. And it's really around building inner strengths and talking about the selves. So let me share this here with you real quick so you get a bit of an idea about what this next unit is about. And so here's the overview. Our self-image holds the picture we use to define who we believe we are and what we believe we can do. There are several facets to our self-image. They determine what we think we are worth in the events of our lives, what we will accept as good enough, and how persistent and resilient we will be in the face of obstacles we meet. Guys, this is tremendously powerful. This is one of the most powerful kind of concepts that you'll encounter, because your self-talk will build your self-image, and your self-image and self-worth really drives everything, right? It drives your confidence, it drives your ability to your efficacy to be able to change things in your life and achieve new goals. So that's going to be a great unit. Again, September 11th, just watch the videos and come prepared. Similar to this, we're gonna share some ideas, discuss some concepts, and see how you guys are applying some of the stuff that we talked about today. All right. So with that, I'll leave you guys. I hope you enjoyed this one. And
Thank you, Serge. This was great.
Thank you.
Good.
I really appreciate it.
And these are recorded, so I will send you and everyone else a link who wasn't able to join us, so they can watch it on their own as well. I think you guys provided a tremendous value that I think a lot of people will relate to and learn from. So thank you for all your time and attention and great comments. And we'll see you guys on September 11th.
All right.